This is the Brave Ideas Podcast, brought to you by Aqua. Welcome everyone to episode 8 of the Brave Ideas Podcast, the show that is all about bringing to light exciting new ideas in the realms of digital and marketing. I'm Herman, I'm a digital strategist, a WWE fanboy, and the reigning Aqua's Got Talent champion. And I'm here today with my co-host.
I'm Sinead. I'm also a digital strategist here at Aqua. I'm a Dungeons & Dragons cleric and an avid tea drinker. Just before we start this week's show, we're going to say a very special Brave Ideas shout out to someone who has shared or retweeted our podcast on social media. And this week, we're going to say a big thank you to Claudine Earlman. Thank you so much, Claudine, for the love. And if you want to get a shout out, please share or retweet our show, and we'll pick a new fan to say hi to each episode.
Today, we're talking to Tim McGeer, data analyst at Aqua. Tim is a Liverpool supporter and a badass beard wearer, and he's going to talk to us about football, or soccer, as it's known in the States. Tim, what's new?
What's up, Dan? It's great to be here to talk about football, something that really excites me. The world of football is changing very quickly, and with this change in the world of football, the need for information and data is growing extensively, and I'm here to focus on that need that the industry has to merge information and insights and analytics with football.
Okay, so I'm just going to jump in here very quickly as a football kind of layman.
Yes.
You're starting to talk about sports analytics. Sorry, goodness. It's your beard, it's so distracting.
Sorry.
Sports analytics. I wanted to ask you, maybe you can start off by explaining a little bit of a historical view of how that started.
Well, analytics in sport has been around for a while. I've read about it since back 1991, when teams started to employ tools to analyze performance in the Premier League. And it goes back as to just analyzing, counting data. Teams used to sit and just count how many times players used to pass the ball. They used to count how many times people shot. And now it's evolved into something where they're using video to support the analytics. So not only are they counting or tracking how well people are performing, they're also using video to support it in terms of evidence of performance and how well they've done on the field and off the field.
So when you talk about performance of football players, like what are they specifically measuring at an individual level?
With the individual level, they go down to as much detail as how far a player has ran in a match. Has he stuck to the basically the guidelines that they've given him in terms of these are the area that he needs to defend? How many passes has he made? How many tackles has he made? How many headers has he made? They track to if the shot's on target or if a shot's off target. They track how long a player holds the ball for in every match and how long does it take him to make a pass in a soccer match. They go into a lot of detail in terms of tracking.
So let's take Leo Messi for an example.
Lionel? Yes.
Leo?
Lionel,
okay. Let's get formal about it. Can you tell me what his average performance would be? I mean, do you have a view of that?
I don't have a view of Messi's average performance. Like, for example, what I can give you is Germany going into the World Cup. Their team on average held the ball for 3.4 seconds before they made a pass. They were able to, with analytics, view their performance and view how their players moved on the field. They were able to bring this time down to 1.1 seconds on the field. And Germany is a very aggressive team that likes to play at a very high tempo. You can imagine that the impact of bringing your time on the ball from 3.4 seconds to 1.1 seconds has on the overall game. And actually, they just thumped Brazil by using this exact strategy. Every time they had the ball, they made sure that they were moving forward and they made sure that they were releasing the ball at a very high speed. This gave them the edge during the whole World Cup. Teams weren't able to cope with their speed, and it was an insight that came from a tool that Germany actually developed themselves called SAP, which is a tool that the German Federation owns, and only Germany has rights to this tool, and it gives them advantage over every other country in international football at the moment because they're able to track insights better than anyone else because they've developed it to basically meet the needs of the German football team.
When they're analyzing data, is that something that they do in training? They obviously use video and GPS to track things like players' fatigue. Are they doing this live? So are they doing real-time statistics in-game?
So I believe that all football teams are tracking data at the end of the day. But why does Germany have the edge? And I think that they're achieving something that's been a bit of a buzzword in the marketing industry for a while, and that's called big data. And I think Germany is achieving this by pulling information from a lot of different sources. So not only are they tracking their games, but they're also tracking trainings. They're also tracking how their competitors line up, what their competitors' players do. So they're able to collate information from a whole lot of different sources. We're talking big data though. I mean, in a match, after 10 minutes, if 10 players have touched the ball, they've collected on average 7 million data points.
Wow.
So you can imagine how much data this is that they're collating. And this data they're able to feed, obviously, into this program that they've developed. And where I really feel that it ties back into big data and what gives them the advantage is that they're able to analyze this information and give information back on the fly. So they feed this information straight back to a coach's cell phone, and the coach actually can share that post with one of their players with his cell phone in the halftime break. And that's how advanced they've come with data analytics. That it's not something that they're waiting for a week to analyze and then see which player did better or whatever. They know during the game, if the right back has the ball and he advances 10 meters, they know exactly what impact that has on the rest of the field, and they can tell the rest of the players basically where they should be. And not only can they tell them, they can graphically show them this through video that they've used to support analytics.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, I mean, what you're basically saying is that the current football world champions, Germany,
Yes.
are the world champions.
Yes.
Because they have optimized the use of performance analytics from the perspective of their individual players
Yes.
to outwit and outplay the opposition, as strongly evidenced by their annihilation of Brazil at the World Cup. And I think that's really fascinating. Some of us may have seen the film Moneyball,
Yes.
which is around it's a true story around a baseball team that really looked at player batting averages and bowling averages from a baseball perspective. And with that, he was able to cut his budget and buy players in a specific way that enabled him to optimize the performance of his team at a low cost and win championships. And some may say that Moneyball mentality has manifested in the broader world of marketing today. So I'd be quite interested, to get both of your opinions. I don't know what you think, Sinead, about, the role that data is currently playing in the sort of work that we do here at Aqua.
So I think we're a little bit far behind in South Africa in terms of data. I feel like there are a lot of brands that are doing the job well of collecting the data, but it's a problem. Like, we were having this conversation earlier, and we were saying like data analytics doesn't win you a soccer match. It's what you do with that analytics and what you do with that data. So I think a lot of companies are sitting with data but not actually doing anything with it.
Yeah, I think Moneyball definitely introduced us to statistic analytics in sports, right? And I think that level has been achieved by most footballing teams across the world. I think in sports, that's not something new, and I think in the industry, we're also at that same level where we use analytics. Most big companies are monitoring what they're doing, what they're spending, what consumers are saying about them, maybe, but where Germany is doing it better than everyone else. That's what really excites me. That's where I'm like, yes, that's something that I want to be doing, is they're not just looking at performance and ranking performance. They're actually saying, like, listen, if I have the ball, like, what does this mean for the rest of the players on the field? So in other words, they're taking that information and that data and they're making it predictive. So they're taking it one step further. They're saying, like, we don't want to just know how we've done. We also want to know if we take the ball and we pass it to the left wing, for example, how does this change the game? And I think that's something that's interesting to tie back into the marketing space is like, okay, we're at a level where we know how our performance is doing in the market, but are we at a level where we can predict if we pass the ball there, what will happen next? And that's what really excites me, and that's where I think the industry needs to go, is to really to finalize this process of predictable analytics, And I don't think it is a thing of just focusing on big data and collating large amounts of information. I think that's where people fall off the bandwagon, is they're just focusing on collating as much information as possible. I think if you look at Germany and the insight that we can really take out of it is that we need to make information available as it happens, and we need to have a system in place that is agile enough to adjust to whatever that information is telling us. So whether it be that content is working better than other content, we should immediately be able to say, okay, fine, we redesign content around the content that's working. Or whether it be that a specific medium in terms of paid media is working better, we need to immediately change our whole campaign according to that medium that's working better. And I think that's where we're getting stuck at the moment, is that we don't have the flexibility, or maybe we're not agile enough to be able to change, and our processes are too structured.
What I'm hearing you say is that it's not about the size of the data, it's about how you use it,
Definitely.
right? And
It's not about the size of the beard, is that what you said? No, okay.
With that in mind, I think it's quite interesting. So it's quite instructive what you're saying around the usage and the way that soccer coaches and experts are taking that information and applying that to winning matches in football space.
Yeah.
And I think it talks a lot to the sort of qualities you need as a data analyst in today's world to take complex amounts of information and manufacture them into meaningful insights that drive business change. So it'd be quite interesting to hear from you what you think those qualities are. What can you take from a Sam Allardyce in the British Premier League who has innovated around the use of that? What can you take from the German Football Association and apply it back into data analytics at Aqua, but also in the broader industry?
I think the biggest thing for me when I look at the sporting industry in general, and you look at the Barclays Premier League, or you look at international sport, or you go to something like baseball, I think what they get right is they understand the importance of data and information and knowledge, and that gives them the edge. And I think that's something that we really need to start to understand. So, for example, West Ham have 6 analysts, who are analysing every movement of their whole team on and off the field and their competitors, because they understand the importance of an analyst, And I think people need to understand the importance of an analyst and understand the information that they're giving you can actually give, like you said, insights that can revolutionize your business. And when we actually see the value in analytics, I think people will start to back it more within the industry, and we'll actually start to have knowledge that changes our business, whether it's just picking up on what someone tweets and being able to use that information to really make huge business insights. I think the possibilities are endless.
But I think that's what's really, really lovely about this conversation is that metaphor that you are making. So if you look at something like soccer and you're looking at the analytics and what they've been able to accomplish, we just need to sell that as analytics, and it makes sense.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. I think that was a great conversation. There's so much we can learn from football and apply it back into our world here at Aqua, and I think you've touched on all those sort of great points. So thank you very much for your time and for your interest. If people want to find out more about this topic or find out more about you, what do they need to do?
Or they can either follow me to the Griffin on Friday, or just kidding, or they can email me at tim@aquaonline.com.
Great. So let's move on now to the tool of the week.
Cool. So today's tool of the week is not actually a tool, it's a technique, and it's called the Pomodoro Technique, which is a time management philosophy that aims to provide you with maximum focus and creative freshness and enables you to finish projects faster with less mental fatigue.
So how does it actually work?
So first of all, it's called the Pomodoro Technique, and Pomodoro in Italian means tomato, and it was called this by the inventor who used a tomato-shaped kitchen timer when he was developing the technique. So basically what you do is you budget your time into short spurts, and you give yourself around 25 minutes to complete a task, followed by like a 5-minute break. So what the technique allows you to do is get through large amounts of work quicker without getting bored or frustrated. And it really, really does work. I did try it out about 2 weeks ago. I only tried it out for 2 days, but I really did feel kind of fresh, and I felt like I was working quite efficiently and effectively. But again, I only tried it out for 2 days, and they do say that you need to try it for 7 to 20 days to kind of master the technique. So it's something that I want to try it again. But if you want to find out more about this technique, you can check out pomodorotechnique.com, and that is spelled Pomodoro technique.com.
Thanks, Sinead, and thank you all for listening to the Brave Ideas podcast. If you like what you've heard, please subscribe on iTunes, and while you're there, you can give us a rating and a review. We would appreciate your support. You can also visit aquagroup.libsyn.com. That's aquagroup.libsyn.com for the complete library of episodes. If you want to keep up to date with new shows, you can follow Aqua Agency on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. You can also find us on Instagram at Brave Ideas Podcast. If you want to keep in touch with me, Dan, you can follow me at elhermo, that's ELHERMO on Twitter, and elhermo23, ELHERMO23 on Snapchat and Instagram.
And if you want to get in touch with me, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram, and my handle is @feelingdisco, and that's feeling disco with a K.
If you have a brave idea, please email me, braveideas@aquaonline.com, to submit your idea, and we'll definitely consider you for the podcast. Special thank you, of course, to Tim McGeer, our special guest. Thanks to Matthew Klawansky for music and production. And thank you to Eros Gous, Johan Butter, and Ernst van der Merwe for the art direction.
That brings us to the end of the show. And remember, there are no original ideas, only original people.